Why are we so attracted to people who reject us? It could be someone who rejects us from the very first moment. They just aren't interested in us. We can see it in their eyes, or we ask them out and they say no. And we think that if we just had a chance to show, who we really were, she would see how interesting I am, how smart I am, that maybe I'm not the best looking guy or the tallest guy or whatever, but I have things going for me. And she didn't see any of that. She didn't even give me a chance. Thoughts like that go through your head. Or maybe you actually go on a date with her. But again, if I just had more time, maybe I was in a bad mood. I wasn't on that day. Something. We're hoping that we can get a redo, get another try. Or it's someone who we did date, possibly for years. Hey, I know I fucked up. I messed up. I could be better. I can do better. I'm not going to make this mistake or that mistake. Whatever they said was the reason why they broke up with us. Which it could be true or it could be not true, right? It could be bullshit. And a lot of times people don't know why they ended things. They may have a reason, a surface reason, but there was something lurking in the background that they weren't aware of or they weren't honest enough to express. But why is it that we are drawn to that? Why do we have those I can change, or you didn't see enough, I'm better than that, blah, blah, blah. Why are we even motivated to try and win where we lost? There's pretty much only two reasons, right? The first reason is that the thing that we lost is really awesome and we don't want to lose it. A lot of times she's really hot and she's really beautiful. She sucked great dick. I mean, the pussy was like heroin. She was really funny, really cool, whatever. It was something about her that was attractive physically or personality-wise. And we have a scarcity mentality to a certain extent, lesser or greater, and we don't want to have to go searching for it because it's right there. If I just had another chance, if I just could, whatever. The other reason why we are drawn to those who reject us is the rejection itself is a message that we're not good enough. And sometimes those motivations can be conflated and they can be confused for one another. I've seen this happen with myself. I've seen it happen with clients. I've seen it happen with friends. A lot of people are mystified, deluded, tricked by this incorrect understanding of our own feelings. Both of them are wrong, but at least the one that says, they're really great and I don't want to lose them, if it's honest, it at least has some legitimacy to it because it is genuinely something awesome, right? Like if you had, a great business and you were making a bunch of money and then, you got addicted to Coke or something, right? And you turn into an alcoholic and your life spiraled out of control and you lost your business, right? It was a great business. It was making you money, objectively great thing, and you lost it because you fucked up. Just, right? There's no misunderstandings about how awesome it was. That's at least legitimate. But the problem is a lot of times, now you still need to get over that as well, but it's harder to get over because it is legitimate. But a lot of times, the other truth, the other reasoning behind our desire to chase after a person, a job, it happens in the smallest ways every day. You lost a match in a game, right? You played a Dota game, a League of Legends game, or a match in Call of Duty if you're a fucking child. It can be from the most mundane to the most serious, right? You lost. And you don't like losing because you want to win. Because when you win, it makes you feel worthy because you are the main reason you lost. People will cope, right, let's go back to the video game thing. Oh, there was lag. Oh, they were cheating. Oh, it's my teammates. And there may be aspects of those reasons for why you lost. But if you were just good enough, and you know this deep down, that if you were just good enough, you probably could have made a difference. And when it comes to relationships, there's really no one else to blame except for yourself. Even in the case where it is her fault, you made the critical error of dating the wrong girl. And this is very, very hard to come to grips with. But instead of taking that responsibility, what will happen is we will think that we're chasing after this thing that rejected us, no matter what it is, because it's amazing. And a lot of times, it's not just a misunderstanding that the thing wasn't really that great, right? It's like, let's say you're hellbent over a girl, right? You lost her, blah, 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 but she wasn't really that great, but it was your first relationship. So you have no standard by which to measure her against, except for like beauty. You could maybe say she's not this, but then you'll be like, oh, but she was so great in all these other ways. So she made up for it, right? She was just so funny. She was perfect for me. I had a friend who did end up breaking up with a girl who all he would do was complain about her nonstop. And she was also, I don't think that attractive even by his eyes, because he admitted it. Because, you know, what I think is a 10 might be a different guy's 8, but like he even said he doesn't think she's that attractive. But also she was just a flagrant ass bitch and just, you know, complaining all the time and causing him so much fucking anxiety. And I did convince him at one point to break up with her. Unfortunately, a couple months later, he kind of confessed to me that he blamed me for it and that he didn't really feel like breaking up with her and that he regrets it and that she was perfect for him, blah, blah, blah. He was going through a lot of stress at the time, so I think he was looking for some sort of an anchor, something stable in his life, and also probably he just wants to get his dick sucked and, you know, fuck pussy. We underestimate the power of sexual desire. To our detriment. We need to be a lot more honest about how much power it has over us and how simple of a motivation it is. But then we cloud it, right, with all this bullshit. But he blamed me for it, and then I said, okay, you know what? Maybe I pushed you too much. You weren't ready. You know, get back with her. And you got back with her, and then the shit continued, and he did nothing but fucking complain about her for as long as we were still talking. We don't really talk anymore. Partly, in fact, because of her, I would say. I think she's a horrible influence on him. But there's other things, too. And he fell for the same thing. And my clients fall for the same thing. And I've fallen for the same thing. Where I've been rejected or, you know, he was the one who, like, broke up with her, but still it kind of felt like he lost her. And I've had it happen to me where a girl rejected me and really objectively she wasn't that amazing, right? But I still was driven by this desire to win because her rejection was a communication that somehow I wasn't great. Because if you think about it, it's kind of interesting. It's like she wasn't, you know, let's say she wasn't a 10 to me, but she still rejected me. Well, does that mean I'm not even worthy of a 7, let's say, or a 6? Wow. I'm not even like, how can I be upset about a 10? I couldn't even get a 6, which is not objectively true because I would date girls who were much more beautiful and hot before and after. But in that moment, you're kind of in this, at the moment of rejection, it's really the only thing that you're focusing on, right? And so it kind of casts this spell over you. And you can't see outside of it if you're not able to, if you don't have emotional control and emotional discipline. Or if you don't have abundance. But even if you have abundance isn't a catch-all solution until it's at a really, really high level. You can sleep with a bunch of girls but still get upset that this next girl rejected you. Because you're lost in the moment right now. And in the moment, you got rejected by a girl who's a 7, let's say. And you're like, wow, I'm not even worthy of that. I need to prove that I'm good enough for at least that. And so what will happen is it'll create this really weird behavior Also in anticipation of rejection, like before you even get to the point of rejection where you're kind of talking to a girl and dating her, your desire to win, whatever that means, get her to like you, get her phone number, get her to fuck you, suck your dick, get her to be your girlfriend, whatever measure of like success you're setting for yourself. As you're going through the motions, what will happen is you will chase after her with a bit too much energy, as if she were this amazing thing when she's not. Right? I'm not trying to reduce people to like a number. I'm just using this arbitrarily just to illustrate a point that some people to you are more attractive than others, right? And so you're chasing after her like she's your 10. And that causes a whole host of other problems, right? It creates an imbalance of that kind of dance of attraction where you kind of have to maintain this balance. And it also comes off strangely insincere. That's when when girls kind of say like, oh, he just sees me as an object. Da, da, da. This is when it's actually true, because you are just treating her as an object. Even though you're being super passionate and you're super like, you want to win, it's fake, because it's not about getting her. It's about winning. And I saw this happen with a client recently. I can see that he gets really drawn towards women who are rejecting him. And, I'm not interested in stupid fucking fortune cookie answers like, oh, we want what we can't have. Like, that's just saying it in a different way. Like, you actually have to understand deep down what's going on. That's what I'm interested in. And so I see these 2 text messages that I have from him. Maybe I can pull them up. Well, one of them has some, like, kind of area. Like, or something that might give away where he's from. Okay. Here we go. Let me window capture. Let me do this in real time, boys. Okay. So let's look at this one. So he's saying they're on like a dating app and they're figuring out a date. What day? Friday. I can maybe swing Thursday. Friday, no. Blah, blah, blah. Let's do Sunday, grab coffee, tea, blah, blah. And then she pulls this shit where she's like, no, thank you. 11:30 coffee and walking is not a date, sir. I do that for my alone free time. Also, PM is crazy. Obviously, this was a typo saying PM. He definitely meant AM, right? But it's her fucking attitude, right? That it's pretty. And if you looked at her profile, I would show her pictures. And like one of her things is like, I listen to Future, and it's like, all right, if a girl's like chronically listening to Future, that's gonna say a lot about her, right? She has this like, I'm a bad bitch, yeah, I'm a player, don't fuck with me kind of fucking attitude, right? It's really fucking annoying and obnoxious. There's some people who can kind of pull it off because it's sincere, but there's a lot of people who just try way too fucking hard. And if you saw her pictures, you would see like she's trying way too hard to be a bad bitch, and you're seeing that happen here. Right? This is a perfectly legitimate date idea. He just, made a typo on 11 p.m. versus a.m. But his reaction to it, let's go back to it. His reaction was to not even address the issue and then to just try to find another place to go, right? He was capitulating. He was being a bitch, and I told him that. And in that moment, he should have just said, well, first of all, it was obviously a typo. And second of all, you're ratchet as fuck, right? He should have. I don't think in this situation you should try to seduce girls. Like when they get this sassy, so few times do you get success by kind of having the right, perfect response. You can. And some guys have this like win at all costs, like even if a girl's being a cunt. But I would say from a lot of experience, you are better off rejecting girls like this just instantly. Not just for like the sake of self-respect, which is kind of like the red pill perspective. I actually think it has a strategic motivation behind it. If you reject girls like this just immediately, like you do what she did, but you actually have a legitimate reason to reject her instantly, whereas hers was just way too dramatic. Like she wants to be wined and dined, or she thinks, she deserves, I don't know, something fucking special. But her outburst definitely it deserves an instant rejection. Either just a straight unblock or a, ew, that's some fucking weird ass behavior, and then just block her. When you do this and you train yourself to do this, what it will do is it'll have a large impact on your energy and the way you behave. And when you are around women who maybe start to show signs of a little bit of this, maybe not like go full fucking ratchet, right? They just go a little bit. You're naturally going to react and pull back to that degree. And that's actually how you should be playing the game of seduction, right? When a girl starts to either show disinterest or act fucking weird, you're supposed to pull back interest. Very few times do you actually want to fight with a girl, like verbally duke it out, right? There's times you can do that, and there's times you can do it in like a playful, fun way, right? But usually if she's actually being out of line, you always just want to pull back interest. But if it's only a little bit, right, you don't want to like reject girls at the slightest hint of her being a bitch, right? Because then you're just being like her. You're overreacting to everything, because that's her mentality. Like, I allow no disrespect in my life. I cut anyone out. And it's like, you're being way too fucking try hard about this. But you play this game where you kind of play that balance of attraction because you've conditioned yourself to react to people who are acting strange. And this is going to make your overall success with your life, with dating and relationships, so much better. Because you're actually going to kind of be that guy. You're going to be that really cool guy who puts his foot down, but to a measured degree. Whereas if you have this I need to win at all costs mentality, which he kind of has, right? And he's even more interested when girls reject him because he wants to climb the mountain that defeated him, right? But counterintuitively and funnily enough, he actually ends up failing to climb that mountain because he has that mentality. I'm going to say that again. Because he has this win at all costs, I get rejected, I'm going to try harder kind of reaction. That's actually the opposite of what you should do when you're dealing with a girl who's rejecting you or a person who's rejecting you. Because all it does is it shows you how desperate you are for their attention. And funnily enough, even if they're not a 10 to you, if you act like that, they're going to think they're a 10. They're going to be like, oh, wow, look at this guy. He's so chasing after me. You know, I must be really hot, right? And so she gets this opposite ignorance where she thinks she's hot shit, even though the only reason you're doing it is because you want another notch on your post, or you're driven by insecurity and you want people to like you, right? And you want to prove that you can get her to like you again, right? But it either is a straight up delusion, right? Where you're just like, why are you acting this way with someone who you clearly don't value that much? Or it's a sneaky delusion where you then believe that they are really hot. And this is how, you know, men and women play the game of I reject you and it makes you like me more, because they're using this built-in psychological mechanism that almost everyone has, where if they get rejected, they chase after it harder, right? You want what you can't have. But the reason why you're chasing after it is because you have a misunderstanding of good strategy. Because if you chase after something that rejects you really hard, you're actually less likely to get it because you're going at it with the wrong attitude, right? Especially within dating. Dating is a very unique field where the more you try hard, the less results you get. Now, are there instances in life where this is kind of not true? Like in soccer, like if you lose the World Cup, you're going to come back 4 years even stronger, and you're driven, you know, and you're like, I'm going to fucking win this time, and you end up training harder than you ever have, and you take your country to victory. Yeah, right. There are times, but even then, it can hurt you. Like if you're about to score the winning goal, but you're way too fucking nervous, and right, you're not going to be as in control. So you have to learn this balance where you want to use it as motivation and passion, but you don't want it to control you where you're overly tense. But with dating, it's this principle is taken to the nth degree, because if you act eager or if you act overly energetic, you're driven by that insecurity. I got rejected by you. You know, and it happens on a macro scale with guys who are rejected by women a lot, and they built up this mentality of like, I'm rejected, but I'm gonna keep trying, and you just come off with this really fucking weird energy. You know, the poor get poorer and the rich get richer kind of thing. Like, the more you get rejected, the more bad your fucking energy gets. It's going to have a huge effect on how women receive you, right? And it's why people who don't have good dating lives really, really, really don't have good dating lives and continue not to. It's a self-perpetuating machine. And so, yeah, you know, my client in this case with this girl, he's driven by this misunderstanding with this girl. Like, it's about winning, but then also with an ex-girlfriend of his, he's driven by the she's amazing kind of delusion because things didn't work out with her. And in a lot of objective ways, he's confessed that she isn't that amazing, that he probably could find better, right? But he's obsessed with her even years later. And that's, like I said, it's a misunderstanding of your own psychology, and you have to pull this out. But the more you react this way, the more you're going to continue to condition yourself to believe it, because here's another example of like an opposite thing happening. That'll make, what I mean by that will make sense in just a second. So here's a different situation. So a girl flaked on him. Hey, I'm sorry, but I can't make it tonight. And then I told him the best response is okie dokie. Like, that's one of the best response. Hello, is one of the best responses when a girl rejects you. Like, you got to find this balance between not acting like it didn't bother you, like, cool, whatever, you know, because it comes off butthurt, and then, or being actually butthurt, right? And like, I don't know, saying something rude to her, like, how dare you? You know, I don't know how guys would even react in a lot of cases, like when they get way too butthurt. Or being too okay with it. You don't be too okay with it. Like, hey, no problem. It's totally okay. Because that just makes someone not respect you. They're like, this guy doesn't have any balls to stand. Like, he wasn't a little bit disrespected. So you want to find that good little balance. And I like okie dokie because just kind of like, oh, okay. You know, it would have been nice to go on a date, but okie dokie. Like, that's the best kind of attitude you can have. And then the next day, she responds again. So sorry, I feel horrible. I literally just moved in. I was extremely overwhelmed, blah, 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 blah. Now, what's really funny, you're going to think this is, if you're paying attention to the story and you're invested in it, this is really funny. When he showed me this text, you want to know his reaction? Because like with the other girl, he was like, you know, oh, you know, how should I have texted? He was kind of thinking like how he can win. But with this girl who actually apologized, you want to know his reaction? He was like, man, fuck this bitch. And I was like, what? Like, the girl who actually apologized to you and was actually, you know, trying to reiterate how sorry she was, you're going to be like, fuck that bitch. But the other girl who was actually a bitch, you're going to be like, well, maybe we can go here instead. And then she leaves you on red. Bro. Like, that is the personification or the like the perfection of the incorrect mental model of chasing after people who reject you, and then like also being rude to people who are like, maybe they rejected you, but they're actually like nice about it, right? And this stands at the core of why so many men and women make horrible fucking choices with who they choose as a romantic partner. But I understand you're driven by this thing in your heart that tells you to chase after it. So it makes it attractive. It makes someone attractive when they reject you. I get it, right? But you have to condition yourself out of it. Because if you don't, you're going to be a slave to that feeling, right? You need to objectively override. You can't change that you desire it in the moment, but you can change that you desire it in the long run. And condition yourself to be disgusted towards people who reject you and to be attracted towards people who are attracted to you. And the way it happens is in every moment that this happens, like a girl rejects you, you have to go, don't be driven towards her, just delete her number immediately and move on, or start to see her behavior as disgusting. Not like rejecting you is like, anyone who rejects me is a bitch. Like, I don't want you to take it that far, right? And get weird with it, okay? Obviously, use some common sense here. But I mean, like, find some way to stop the drive to chase after the mountain that knocked you off of it. Whether it's a girl, whether it's a group of friends who, you know, cut you off, something, right? Be attracted to the things that are positive towards you, right? But you can also use negativity as a fuel and motivation too, right? There's a place for nuance here. But with women, you like, there might be just times when you're not good enough for a girl, and that's right. You're just not at that level, and that's, you know, you just need to accept that, not be mad at the girl, right? If it's a genuine rejection, like, hey, sorry, I'm not interested, don't be mad at that, right? But be careful if that makes you like want her more. That's what I'm more focusing on, right? And when girls are like this, where they actually apologize to you and they're actually like, hey, I'm really, really sorry, that should be something like attractive, right? Well, he ended up leaving her on red for like 4 days. And I was like, dude, you didn't even respond to her. Like, this is so rare when women actually like double down on their apology, right? Because a lot of girls will just do the, hey, sorry, I can't make it. And then, you know, and the guy keeps chasing. He's like, hey, when can we meet again? And she has this feeling deep down that he doesn't stand up for himself and blah, blah, blah. There are social and sexual dynamics going on here, right? But he should have at least, there's so many directions I want to go in here. I need to stay focused. Because there's things that you can also learn from this, like not just reconditioning this. Never mind. Let's just stay on track. I'm going to make this a 2-hour video. When a woman actually is cool like this, you need to reward that. And when you reward it, your mind will start creating new pathways, almost, you know, like neural pathways. You'll condition yourself that when people are nice to you, you're nice to them back. I know it sounds really simple, but almost no one does it, because almost everyone is driven by this. When I get rejected, I chase after harder. When it's too easy, and they're nice to me, well, you know. And it's just a pure misunderstanding of either it's way too try hard of a mentality, like this is the one way that you get this mentality, or the second like prong of it is when you think that the thing that rejected you is actually great. And you get, you know, like, oh yeah, she's amazing and this, and you're like, whoa, bro. And it's all because it rejected you, so that made you feel like you must be below it. When that's not necessarily how the world works, right? There could be a group of people in a room, and you walk in and they just don't like you, they're rude to you. They could be the worst absolute pieces of fucking shit on this earth. Them rejecting you is a fucking compliment, right? But there can be someone who feels rejected by it and feels like they need to prove themselves to that group. And they may even worm their way inside through proving themselves. But being rejected by that group is a compliment, okay? Because you need to objectively assess their value in and of themselves, outside of how you're measuring yourself up to them. But unfortunately, a lot of the world, most of the world, is just playing this game of, you know, swiping left and swiping right. And if you swipe left on someone, it means you're above them, which is not the case, especially with dating, because standards are very relative. A 10 to you can be a 7 to me. A 7 to me can be a 10 to you, or, you know, my 10 can be your 7, right? And people can just objectively fucking suck. Like, some people are just less nice, less smart, less interesting, right? You can have good values. Beauty is a little more relative of a thing, but like values are a little bit more objective, right? So you need to start reconditioning yourself, okay? So that means the next time you feel driven towards someone who rejects you, or if you're lingering on something in the past that has rejected you, girlfriend, girl, friend group, whatever, you need to sit down and you need to start looking at the negatives of the thing that rejected you, so that you can knock it off any pedestals that you have. But you should also be honest too. Like, you know, if a girl was just out of your league just in general, be like, look, I'm just not at that level yet, and I need to work hard. But being obsessed with her is only going to hurt me. I should just use the rejection as, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a litmus test, right? Like a little, you dip it in the water and it tells you what value it's at, right? You check your level by who you feel like you can date based on your own metrics of beauty and personality and whatever, right? So it's this balance of putting it off the pedestal, but then also being honest with yourself, right? But you really, the most dangerous one, well, I think they're both equally dangerous. Like making someone really hot just because they rejected you, but also the one where you turn them into like a milestone in your video game, where you're like, I have to get them to like me or sleep with me or whatever, because that's my next step in the video game. That's where things get really messy, because you are objectifying that person. You're kind of turning them into an object, which I guess we always do, and it's sort of impossible to avoid completely. But the only real object in the game that you should be focusing on is your own skill set, right? You can kind of turn it into objectify your stats, or your charisma, your sex appeal, your this and your that, and then just use people as, they're more of like reflections. How people treat you is more of a reflection of who you are right now, not necessarily like I gotta get them because getting them means I'm this, right? Even though that's kind of what's going on, right? It's kind of what is just going on in reality. It's not the healthiest viewpoint, but this is very hard. You can see how there's a lot of nuance here. But if you want to operate at the highest level, you have to have nuance. Having one-dimensional viewpoints is a very good way to stay one-dimensional. That's really what I'm trying to teach you here. But definitely start unconditioning that really fucking stupid mindset to chase after people who reject you, because it's the best, most charismatic guys I've ever met. When someone rejects them, they're just like, oh, okay. And even maybe a little bit like, oh, okay, right? Why would you reject me? Because if you didn't do anything wrong, you don't really see a reason why they should have rejected you. So that means there's either something wrong with them, or there's just really was no foundation of chemistry to work on. And you two didn't have anything outside of the fact that she had a fat ass. But, that was the only reason you were attracted to her, right? But definitely stop chasing after girls who reject you. It is so. And this applies in so many little ways. Like, this is a big idea I'm teaching you, but there's so many like little intertwining webs, like dating people who are like kind of rude and, kind of put you down and aren't really positive and sweet and kind towards you, right? Like people who are kind of like, don't date people who are like really bratty and douchey and like, and it happens in small ways, like people who make snide comments your way, right? If you condition yourself to be disgusted by that, you might change who you're attracted to by a large margin. And you'll be very interested to see how radically you can change your personality. Like with that friend who I mentioned who kind of got mad at me for convincing him to break up with this girl and then got back with her. One of the reasons why I think he's attracted to her is because he does have some trauma, and he does have some he has some traumas, and so he chases after the things that reject him very, very, very hard. And it can be used as a fuel for success, but it can also be used as a fuel to dive right into the jaws of a shark, because you're just obsessed with, getting back in the shark's mouth because the shark rejected you. Like some fucking weird metaphor, right? Don't do that. Don't jump into the jaws of jaws if you don't need to, right? So, yeah. Anyways, I hope that was clear, and I hope this helps you. Go after the things that are positive towards you and get away from the things that are negative. Simple lesson, complicated way of doing it, because the mind is complicated. Cool. Best of luck, boys and girls.